Yesterday we left the Mungina bush camp overlooking the Mungina Gorge. Absolutely beautiful spot, a free campsite, and we made our way into Port Hedland. And the road trains, there would have been one every 6 minutes, and they were carting coal or whatever they are from the mines to Port Hedland, and they had 4 trailers. It was quite a journey. The road was good though. On night 37 and 38 we're camped in a paddock by the racecourse at Port Hedland. The council are tired of the caravan parks charging $50, and they've let us come in here for nothing, and there's good water. We have our own toilets, so we're happy. We're taking a tour of the port today, a cruise, and then tomorrow we're heading out to the races at Marble Bar. Just happened to be here at the right time. The place has emptied out overnight, but by tonight this will be full of caravans again. And we're very close to the action of the railway line, and boy, were they busy, and are busy every night. We're at the Cubana lookout at Port Hedland, and we're watching this ship leave port. And out on the horizon, Robert has counted 16 vessels waiting to come into port. And with the road trains that passed us yesterday coming here from the mines, we're not the least bit surprised. Of course, the railway lines carry much more. Just amazing, look at them all. That vessel is taking at least 2 tugs to escort it out to sea. We're just overlooking the beach at Pretty Pools at Port Hedland. Our caravan is parked somewhere over there in the very far distance, and this is Pretty Pools Creek. They advise not to swim in these waters. Croc, croc, croc. This is where our caravan is at the racecourse. And this is the racecourse. This is the business centre of Port Hedland. All the buildings and everything is red. This is rather a refreshing little park in the centre of Port Hedland. Everything red again, paths and everything. This park is an extension of one of their main streets, and behind me is the port. That could be the ship we saw from the other lookout earlier. A little bit of the activity at the port. Everyone is busy doing something. helicopter overhead. Roofs, footpaths, houses, everything has this red touch to it.
There were 21 ships waiting here yesterday, 19 from China, 1 from Taiwan, and I'm not sure where the other one was from.
And they're all huge, aren't they?
Yes, big ships.
Absolutely. Lots of different vessels too, smaller ones. This is the Pier Hotel, and just take a look at these red buildings. And all the pavements are red. The channel that's dredged to keep this Port Hedland open to these huge ships is now 20 nautical miles in length. In the year 2011, there was an excess of 199 million tonnes of throughput from this port, iron ore. Iron ore continues to be the dominant export trade, but also important to the economy of the region are exports of salt, manganese, chromite, copper concentrates, and livestock. We can take this harbour walk, but we can't see anything through this green fence. It's a long way from ships and things. I think this would be the biggest hotel, but just looking at the brickwork, it's just beautiful. This is just a close-up of salt at the port. This is the tower that directs the activity in the port. This is quite exciting. We've boarded the vessel that's going to take us on a tour of the harbour. Tourists are welcome on board this working vessel. It's very windy, as you can see, and the lady giving the description is quite hard to hear. This sea taxi picks up and delivers the crew members to their iron ore ships. This is sometimes the first time these men have been on shore for months. They have access to a nice little shop that they can buy gifts for their loved ones at home. They can buy their own special food, and they have access to the internet so that they can talk and see their relatives at home. They also have access to travel on a small bus that takes them to the local shopping centre, where they can also go to a pharmacy which has their selection of goods, medicine, and really designed to suit their needs as well as the public in Port Hedland. And they can do more shopping at the supermarket and then be returned to their vessels at the end of the day. It's quite a big project, but appreciated by many of the crew that travel on these big iron ore carriers to Port Hedland. The mission has a Christian pastoral care person and persons who actually go out by helicopter to visit the men who are lonely on these ships. It's a tremendous service to these visiting crew people. Glide beside these monsters, and they are big. As they see the vessel that we're on approaching, you can see them starting to lower the ladder. There's much chatter among these men, but of course we can't understand the language. We are dwarfed by the size of the machinery on this wharf. It's just massive. This is Gina Reinhardt's new wharf, bringing a railway line in hundreds of k's from her new mine. These are the suction caps that keep a ship safe when there's a storm. We're now looking across the bay at all the ships that we have been travelling beside to either pick up men or put them back on their ship. It's taken quite a while. From down here, they just look like big floating bathtubs. The men waiting on the ladder look like little birds. We've been travelling in the Fortescue Metals area. At this port, ships can only come in and out on high tide, quite restrictive. Yet it's a port that is expanding and an iron ore port that's the 4th largest in the world. More containers waiting to be loaded. It's been a very interesting tour. We're passing the Tug Harbour, and it's the largest in Australia. We're arriving back at our starting point, and you can see that the tide is out. We're at Port Hedland and we've just come to look at the stairways to the moon when the sun goes down across these mud flats, along with 150 other people.
You know, you sit there all day and watch them go in and out with tugs and everything.
This is as day draws in.
More than residents, maybe. More backpackers than residents.
Can you?
Yes. Steps happening.
The steps are happening.
Any movement. Oh, that's a better one. Thank you.
Stairways to the moon. We've spent the last 2 nights in a paddock at the racecourse here at Port Hedland, a freebie, and now we're leaving and we're going out to Marble Bar for the weekend. Salt is big at Port Hedland, and there's Qantas flying in to the airport. We're on our way out to Marble Bar, and the countryside is very flat and the road is very straight. We've been travelling over very flat, uninteresting terrain, and now we're coming into some ranges. In the late afternoon sun, these ranges look quite pretty. This countryside looks interesting, doesn't it? These are very unusual, aren't they? How unusual is this? We're off to Marble Bar. We don't know much about it at all, except it's the hottest place in Australia. What an unusual colour this range ahead is. We're heading off to the races like everybody else is. This is Kunang Gorge, and I believe someone told me about this back on the track, that it would be a nice place to stay overnight. This area has been burnt. This is how you iron things when you're out at the races at Marble Bar. This bus is full of security men, shapes and sizes, but you wouldn't want to have an argument with any of them. They're off to the races. We're at the races at Marble Bar. Most of the horses are from Port Hedland, South Hedland, a couple from Broome, and there is one from Bunbury, but all mostly local horses. And half these utes have gone. This was packed. There will be some very seedy heads this morning. The noise hasn't stopped till 4:30 a.m. for 2 mornings in a row. Thank goodness for earplugs. And this is the security section the day after too. We're now looking at the famous Jasper Rock at Marble Bar and its sunset. We left Port Hedland on Friday night and we've been out here at Marble Bar to the races, which has been quite an education, and we're now going back into Port Hedland. And in the scheme of things, this is where we are after night 40. We're just taking a drive up to the water tower at Marble Bar. There's our caravan sitting in the middle of the paddock waiting to be picked up. Over the race weekend, this area was absolutely jammed packed with utes, and the station people were all to the right hand corner. Hadn't seen each other for a long time probably. These were the cabins for the very dangerous looking security men. We were in the overflow part of the caravan park, and we're now looking down on the powered area. This is the whole area of Marble Bar, and we're about to look down the main street, and we know that the school has got a population of about 23 students, and we also know that this is the hottest part of Australia, very famous for it. To get here we came through those ranges, but for the rest of the trip it was flat, very flat. That would make a good painting picture. People come here too to gold mine. Marble Bar was so named because of this bar of Jasper rock that is across their river. Explorers thought it was marble. You have to tip water on it to see its true colour. Robert is going to tip some water on it to make it the true colour. And everybody's coming out here this morning to do the same. It really looks pretty ordinary when you haven't got any water on it, but there's masses of it. Last night we had the place to ourselves, but everybody's got the same idea as us this morning. You can't come to Marble Bar without looking at the Jasper rock. This is another section of this Jasper rock. This is the Coogan River at Marble Bar. This is the historic building that's in Marble Bar, built many, many years ago when the place was first settled, and they're very proud of this establishment and the long-lasting brickwork. In here they have a museum, a restaurant, and at the end is the police station. And this more or less ends our tour of Marble Bar, very famous pub. And this is where the Cup Ball was held. And we started up there on that water tank, and now we're back to the caravan park. This country is very raw when there's no green growth. These roads are long and flat. We've just had this road train pull up beside us as we're having lunch. They're big, aren't they? I thought Dad would be having a chat. We've been out to Marble Bar and now we've come back in, and again we're at this time South Hedland for things medical, unfortunately for Jan. We're overlooking the tidal flats at Port Hedland. You wouldn't want to be out there when the tide started to come in, would you? Nor out there. We believe the midgies are quite bad along here. There's a great difference between the height of high tide and low tide here. You can see it by looking at that beach. The tide is starting to come in. Can you see it? It comes in very fast here, all along these northern coasts.